microphone before we get started. All right, so I decided that I wanted to chit chat with everybody about different issues that they may be facing in the special ed with their special education and admin. Um, what's all this? Oh, okay, drop morning. Okay, sorry. I'm looking at my streaming quality may be affected because of something. So I wanted to talk about some special education administration issues that speech therapists could be facing and kind of problem solve and discuss and feel your pain and some solutions. Oh, I didn't bring it in. Oh, I did. Haha, I have a little surprise at the end what you could do to solve some of these problems. But anyways, I put on my Facebook like a week ago, like what would you want to say to your SPED administration if you had the chance? And people commented in on Instagram and Facebook and shared some things, and I have some opinions as well, but I feel like I'm like where I feel like this is how some SLPs are probably feeling whenever they're faced with SPED administration. They're just like, well, we're the angry little elves, but we get angry, and we don't have anger management issues. We just need people to stop pissing us off, right? And I feel like that is what a lot of these issues make SLPs angry. We feel unheard. We feel like we're not appreciated, and I feel we feel hopeless sometimes. And is it better somewhere else, and wishing you were somewhere else, and and that impacts our job performance, and it also impacts our children, the students we serve every day. So first question up, I like this one. Someone wrote, always have my back. I work harder than you will ever know for my students and need support. The occasional pat on the back helps too. And I just remember that kind of spoke to me, because it's like all I need is a little acknowledgement, and knowing that you've noticed me and you noticed the job that I do. It sticks in my brain, and I'm a very loyal person, and I think most speech therapists are very loyal to their students and to their staff. They want things to be cohesive, and I just remember last year when I had to fill in a few in for a therapist was out. They needed help. I knew I was going to be at that site next year, so I thought, okay, I'll help out and make sure get things rolling early. And it was so nice to get an email that was sent to my special ed administration from the principal that I helped out, and she just wrote about me and the other therapists and how professional we were and how much it helped the families, us being there and being committed to come to the IEPs, that it really preserved some of the frustration that some of the families were feeling, and just publicly acknowledging us and letting our boss know that we kicked butt. Yeah, so that really goes a long way. And I did a little bit of research, not a lot of research, but I just looked up some articles, and let's see if I can get to that. See if I can. Nope. Oh, that's when I'm feeling angry. Okay, so I found this article on TED Talks, and it's what motivates us to work more than money. And I think I can resonate. I think that's one of the issues, is that we still need to find ways to stay motivated in our job, even when things are not going the way we want them to go, but that we know that there's some intrinsic motivation. And these are some helpful tips, I'd say, for the SPED administration to recognize and remember, that seeing the fruits of our labor may make us more productive. So seeing the outcome of something may make us be more productive. And they did like a little study where one group's creations were stored under the table and they were going to get disassembled at the end of the experiment, and the other ones were disassembled as soon as they were built. So people started to lose, inspiration to stay productive. And I think admin needs to recognize that our labor and what we're doing, so that we can, and knowing that they recognize, that they see what we're doing, it would really help keep us going ahead. And then I like this one. The less appreciated we feel our work is, the more money we want to do it. And I think that's a big kicker for speech therapists and educators, as a whole. But when we don't feel appreciated, we don't want to, it takes more money for us to want to do it. And I know that when I worked in areas where there wasn't a lot of parent involvement, I really needed my staff and my special administrator, them to keep building me up so that I could see the worth, because I only had my kids to keep me building me up. And when I was having a hard time with some of my students, that was when it was hard to feel appreciated, because then I didn't have my special ed people backing me up and making me feel appreciated. And so I feel like that's a big component. When I feel appreciated, I want to work harder. And then knowing that our work helps others may increase our unconscious motivation. So, knowing that people, that our work, that what we do is helping in some way, I think that keeps me motivated. And I think our students are that core component to to some of these issues, is that knowing that I'm helping them, and when I see them grow, it usually makes it all worth it. But when you're in the trenches, like dealing with all these issues, I think it's hard. So I think some of the issues that I've heard across the whole country about caseload size, room, environment, paperwork, all the crazy things that people ask us about. I think that those intrinsic things that we can motivate ourselves in the job place may help us get through when we can't change some of the legislation or some of the rules that the special education administration team has set out. That trying to find ways in your workplace to keep you motivated and to keep you feeling good about your job are what I would suggest doing. And I would suggest for the SPED administration that they should probably start patting us on the back a little bit more. I mean, providing breakfast at a PD, professional development training, writing out emails, giving shout outs, specifically emailing that person or calling that person and letting them know what a good job they did, I think would go a long way. Oops, wrong one. All right, so here, oh no, we already did that one. I think I did a double one. All right. Administrators need to consider what type of environment is conducive to providing effective speech therapy to our students and to make it effective. So, I know that for me, I have a beautiful, beautiful room. And the last 2 years since I moved over to my new district that I'm in, I've had beautiful rooms that were just for me. In my old district, my first year out of grad school, I had to share a room with a psychologist. The psychologist was there on certain days, and then on other days I was there. And the problem with that, the room was pretty tiny, and it was already it already had all of the psychologist stuff in there, and I don't even blame the psychologist for wanting to keep all their stuff in there. So it was really hard to store materials and do all that stuff. And then my other room that I had was in the cafeteria, and it wasn't the walls didn't go all the way up to the ceiling. So from 11 to 1, I could hear everybody during that time that was eating lunch. It was loud. I could not conduct therapy in that little small space. And then in the morning, I could hear easy jazz all morning long, because the cafeteria ladies were cooking and getting things ready for the day. And it wasn't super loud, but it was something that I had to hear in the morning time. And so I've heard, so then after that, I had my own rooms when I went to new schools, and I was able to get pretty nice spaces where for me it was like, it was a closet, but it was a big closet, a nice space. It used to be like a kindergarten closet room, and it was now the speech room. So my next, I recognized, oh, I have a really good office space after having my first year out, having that horrible space. And then what did I have? Oh, so yeah, and then in my new district, I have my own room and everything. But I've had friends and I've had other people tell me like horror stories that they're in a bathroom, or that they've had their room cut in half and they have to share it with other students that are, coming in for intervention. So I put a little bit.ly link, because ASHA has a lot of stuff on their website that you can use as a resource for tackling some of these issues. So there's the bit.ly link, or you can just go on ASHA and search it. But it's all about ethics and how, why it's important for you to have a good speech environment. And I mean, the first one would be because you need to test kids in a quiet environment. So you cannot have a shared room with someone if you have to test. Now, I did share a room with one of my psychologists, and she wasn't there every day. So the days that she was, there are problem solving where it's like, okay, we got this room. It's a nice big room. We have to share it. She has to test. I have to test. So we tried to figure out days that we would both either be testing or, to create that environment for the testing, or when I wouldn't see kids for therapy, so that she could have a quiet environment. And we also had another room that we could fortunately go to. But that's one reason. The other reason is for confidentiality. You need to have a good room that is secure, that has ways for you to secure your files so that nobody else can get into them because of HIPAA and confidentiality. And you also need a room that's accessible if you have students that have wheelchairs or have any of those kinds of things. So ASHA kind of goes through all that stuff. And it's a great resource to go take it to your admin, take it to your principal and say, hey, look, you need to give me a good room and this is why, and kind of remove the emotion of how you're feeling unheard and, thrown aside and really bring it back to the kid-centered model that this is not okay for kids. And so I'm going to put it up on the screen one more time. Bam, there it is. Or you can Google, or you can look in ASHA. But I think it's something that should be worth fighting for. And I've worked with a lot of really amazing principals that wouldn't just switch my room without talking to me. And that actually was going to come up where they were like, hey, there's a possibility that you might have to switch your room, and this is what it would be like, and what do you think? And and I've had really awesome principals that considered me. And I think that's part of that branding piece as speech therapists, is that we're on our campuses and we have to build and maintain relationships with all these working people. So you can't go at some of these issues hardcore, because you're going to make enemies. And it is about branding yourself and who you are, and being a workable person, but also knowing when and where to stick up for yourself and having the confidence to do that. And I don't feel like I had that same confidence that I do now when I first started, for many reasons. But now, I recognize when and where I should be advocating for myself. And in that moment when we had that conversation, I told the principal, like, hey, look, I'm open to moving, but here's some issues and here's some things that are going to get in the way, and this is what I have to do for my job. And I think that's one way to deal with some of these issues with the rooms, is to advocate for yourselves and share what your job is like and what you do. And because I really feel like going above the principal to your SPED administration at times can be like tattletaling, especially if you can't trust your SPED team to be anonymous, but I think that's another resource, is to go to your SPED team and say, look, I do not have a good room, and talk, share the same article. Fortunately for me, my special ed director is a speech therapist, so she gets it. All right, we already did that one. All right, so this person, a speech therapist, wrote, observe your SLP to learn what an amazing job we do. Look at our documentation, our scheduling issues. See how time consuming it is for our planning, prep for therapy, and meetings, homework for each individual. Teacher parent consults so you can adequately support us. And I think I really liked what she said, so you can adequately support us. And so many of our admin in the special ed arena don't know what we do. And they don't know how much time we put into things, and how much learning we really have. We have a lot of knowledge about a lot of different things and what we could be used for on our campuses. And so when you don't know what we do, you're going to give us caseloads of 80 and think that we can do it, right? So I feel like admin, here's my plug to you. Take the time to find out about our job. And I know that takes a lot of time away from your day and from what you have to do, because I know your job is probably endless and it doesn't stop. But I think the time that you put into investing in us, we will see that, and we'll remember that, and knowing that what we do and what we offer and what we provide will help make decisions with caseloads and servicing and what models to use. I'm going to go back to that slide. Yeah, so I think one of the issues that I see is with special ed administration supporting us, is that in my district we have a student study team process, and trying to I wouldn't say this issue is always with special ed either. It's also on our campuses where we're getting referrals from teachers, and we're getting asked to do all these different things, and being able to say no to assessments, and being able to have a reasoning why we don't test every single student, or why we don't qualify every single student. And I know SPED really knows the eligibility criteria and stuff. Well, I think at least in my district they do, but I feel like sometimes administration on our campus is, they don't realize all the time and energy and the thousands of dollars that it takes to test a child, and to, that we don't just sign kids up for speech, and we don't just sign up assessments just off the fly, or that it's just, they can refer that stuff solely. So one way that I've gotten around administration taking over that control is that I go to all the student study team meetings that have speech and language concerns, so that I can be the expert, and I can be the specialist that's asking and answering questions, and being able to say, yeah, that's normal, or that's still developmental, or hey, wow, there's a lot of factors here, they didn't go to preschool and they're bilingual, and all these, all those little things. And it takes a lot of extra time, but I feel like it helps in the long run. One, to brand myself that, hey, I do know what I'm talking about. I stay up on research. Two, it helps guide the team with educating the team on a good and bad referral, and it cuts down on the referral. So I do feel like that doing that has helped me in the long term. The other thing that I've done is I've educated, like, my psychologist, the principal, anyone that's going to student study team meetings. I'll say, hey, I personally don't feel comfortable with the team signing me up for assessments, but that doesn't mean that when I'm not in those meetings. So if I'm not able to come to that, here is a little blurb you can say. So I'll say, you can say that you'll consult with a speech therapist, or the speech therapist will consult with the teacher, or do a classroom observation. So that's another way that I've made it very clear to my team and my admin that you can't just sign me up for things. And so that has helped me too. That's a way around testing stuff. So moving on from that, I feel like I've been talking about that for a while. Okie dokie. Sorry. All right, so this speech therapist wrote, not all numbers are created equal. You cannot weigh all kids the same when determining caseload sizes. Can I get an amen? I have like a little goofy, where is my Dwight? I don't know where he went. Oh, here he is. I've got 80 on my caseload. That would be my look. A couple years ago, I had 80 kids on my caseload, and it went from like 76 to 83. So it was kind of intense. And so I'll tell you how my district dealt with it. So I worked in a bigger district where there was like at least 30, 35 SLPs, and they're rock star SLPs. So they were pretty ticked off about a lot of us having these gigantic caseloads. And so we banded together. There was a core group of us, and a couple of SLPs got together some forms, and I believe she got them on ASHA, and that's where the link is. Let me get it. This link down here, the bit.ly link, that says it leads you to ASHA on caseload versus workload. And so we were all ticked off about, our caseload sizes. So we filled out some of these workload analysis forms, and I was one of them because I had a very heavy bilingual population, and I was a case manager for a lot of students, and then a couple other girls that did AAC. So we had a nice mix, and we took data and we looked at how much stuff we did outside our day, and then we also weighted our caseload. So if we had an AAC student, that had a certain amount of points. If we had a bilingual student, that had a certain amount of points. So we took all this data, and then we presented it to our district, and it was still in pending mode, but we basically banded together. And I think that's one of the recommendations that ASHA shares, is that if you are trying to combat a workload versus caseload with your administration, that you need to come together as a group. You need to look at what's the biggest issue that you would like changed. And so for our group, it was to lower our caseload and have it in our contract to be 55 kids or less in our contract, so that when the district was violating that we could actually file a complaint with our union. And I think that was I felt very powerless that I had 80 kids on my caseload, and even though, despite my advocating for myself, nothing changed. So if you go on ASHA, you can download these, and you'd have to, I think one of the roadblocks of your, of actually doing this is that you have to have speech therapists that are willing to kind of fight that fight. And, for me, another option out of that caseload was I'm in a place where I wasn't 20 years into my career. And so I made a choice that I was going to look around for a different job. And I know some therapists can't always do that because there aren't a lot of jobs where they live. But in California, there's a lot of jobs. So I did eventually decide just to move to a district that was going to give me a caseload that was manageable and reasonable, because I just felt like it was too much stress. I mean, I'm still stressed out with my caseload of 55. And I look back going, how the heck did I do 80? And I know that I did it, but I didn't do it perfectly, and I didn't do it it wasn't a good time. And so I would encourage you to look into the workload versus caseload data, and I would present that to your admin. And the other issue that I noticed too is like there was some amazing therapists who were telling me that they're like, yeah, I have to stay till this time every, almost every single day, and or else I can't get the work done. And they're showing me their elaborate organizational strategies and all these things that, I mean, I was like blown away. And I was like, even with all that, they cannot get their job done. And I think that's an issue that we all, I don't know the best answer to, but I do feel like we may be contributing to that problem in that we are staying 2 hours out of our workday, or more than 2 hours out of our workday, and more than once or twice a week. Because there are times where I do have to stay late, and it's just the nature of the job. But if you're finding that you have to take work home, or you're staying 2 to 3 hours more than twice a week, then I really feel like your workload is out of the confines of what you're getting paid. And so I think that you may need to be looking at some strategies on how you are going to how you're going to take some accountability for this problem. And sadly, I feel like we give and we give and we give, and and we don't always get back what we give of our time. And so it's sometimes about setting limits and showing them that, look, if I work my 8-hour day or my 6-hour day, I cannot get the work done. And really vocalizing that. And I don't think they realize that until someone leaves, and then they have to fill that position. And so it's, I don't know. Anyways, I'm rambling. All right, let's see. Okay. Sorry, I'm looking at my pictures. Okay. So this SLP wrote, where does all the Medi-Cal Medicaid money go? That's an excellent question. Yeah, we're asked to bill monthly, and yet some of us don't even know where that money goes. So, in my old district, they were super, super awesome. We billed, and then we got to buy almost whatever we wanted. So they were really cool. They had the money that we generated was in a special fund that was for speech materials and speech therapists to go to professional development, and we got a very large portion. And I will tell you that I was in that district. That was one of the really big strengths of that district, was that I got so much professional development training, and I got resources that I needed for my students. And so it was very motivating for me to bill for Medi-Cal. In my current district, we kind of get, I know where the Medi-Cal, like, we can get materials, but there's not an allotted amount that I get. And I think some of the money goes to funding other things. And so one way to find out from your SPED admin where the money goes is to ask them. Or you can email the Medi-Cal Medicaid representative of your district and just ask them where the money goes, because I did that before, because I just wanted to know. And another way to get involved, so that if you want to make changes, there is a Medi-Cal committee. You can't, they have to have a committee who makes decisions about where money goes, and they have to approve things. So that is one way you can get on the committee and voice your concerns where the money is going, and making sure and helping to make decisions about where it is going to go. So I think that's it for questions. Dun dun dun. Yeah, so I'd love to hear what you feel like. What are you doing to help with some of these issues? And if you have any solutions. And I feel like all the long-term solutions to reducing our caseload cap and being able to get paid more, or paid more for our time, I think are long-term solutions, or not long-term solutions, but long-term, like it's going to take longer than tomorrow or next month to fix. And I do know that one cool thing about my SPED director is she was able to up our salaries, and she keeps our caseload low. And she was realizing that how many contracted SLPs they had to hire, even with raising our salaries, she was saving the district money in the long term. So, I think it takes a district to think outside the box. I think it takes a group of speech therapists to come together and bring it to their attention that look at my salary, look how low it, needs to be increased. And then talking about paperwork and all that time doing the weighted versus caseload. And then I would, as a team, as a speech therapist team, we presented at some of the union and district board meetings, and I think slowly, I wasn't there in the district anymore, but I know they got their caseload cap written into the district contract, and I don't know if they got a pay raise, but that would be one thing you could ask for is an 8-hour workday, or or a caseload cap in your contract. So anyways, this I thought was funny. This is how I feel sometimes when I go to different meetings. Everything you say will make it worse, I guarantee it. I feel like there's, I don't know, sometimes hearing it in person, it makes me more emotional. It makes me feel bleh. But here's another way. If your district just won't listen, you can can you see it? You can download these, you can go buy them from the Peachy Speechy. They're little wine wine stickers. You can put them on any bottle of wine. And then this is like your special bottle of wine for when you have a really crappy day, or when you get like 5 new kids on one day. Or when you're just like mad that you don't have a caseload cap and how it affects you. You can just stick one of these on there, or you can go get a piece of cake if if you don't drink wine. But if you drink wine, you should get those labels from the Peachy Speechy. And usually wine or working out usually solves my problems. Anyways, thanks for listening to me and rambling on. Hopefully I'll have some more live stream YouTubes coming up soon. It was nice talking to you. So I'm hoping to see you maybe in a couple weeks live. I have, I don't know, maybe some more questions about special education. I don't know. Haven't decided yet. All right.